Hello students, listen to me. Let the Starches-TLE, the subject that brings out the best in everybody, and it includes you and me. Agriculture, ICT, industrial arts, HE. All these components will help you to get ready so you could reach your goals and dreams. Let the Starches-TLE, let the study come with me. All of the knowledge and all of the skills will help you to be life ready. Will help you to be life ready.
Good day, students! It's another awesome time to learn new things. This is Sir Ike, and welcome to our virtual TLE class.
Lord, true source of light and wisdom, give me a keen sense of understanding, a retentive memory, and the capacity to grasp things correctly. Grant me the grace to be refined in my action, and the skills to express myself with thoroughness and clarity. Be with me at the start of my work, guide its progress, and bring it to success. Amen.
Before we move forward, make sure that you have all the materials that you need for our day's lesson. You can play and pause this video if you need more time answering the activities. Before we start our new lesson, let's have a short recap of the discussion last meeting.
Direction. Identify the following questions about the simple ways to present a food. Number 1. It refers to its visual composition on the plate. It is also the state of readiness to be eaten. If your answer is presentation, you are correct. Number 2. This is an item that is used as a decoration to enhance the presentation of any dish. You're right if your answer is garnish. And number 3, it is an art of presenting food in an attractive way. You are correct if your answer is plating.
Now get ready for a simple game called Jigsaw Puzzle. All you need to do is to guess the hidden picture behind the jigsaw puzzle pieces. Are you ready? Let's start!
Number 1. What do you think is the hidden picture behind these jigsaw puzzle pieces? The correct answer is rice. Try to look at these puzzle pieces. What do you think is the correct answer? You got it right if your answer is wheat. How about this one? Can you guess the hidden picture behind this? Good job! The correct answer is corn. Let's try this one. What do you think is the answer? If your answer is potato, then you are correct. Now try to look at this one. What do you think is the right answer? If your answer is sweet potato, you're doing great. And lastly, try to guess this one. If your answer is cassava, you are excellent.
Great job! Based on the pictures that you have revealed, what do you think is their connection on our lesson? If your answers sum up involving grains and starches, then you got it right. Today, we will be dealing about cereals and starches. At the end of this video lesson, you are expected to identify the kinds and sources of cereals and starches, appreciate the importance of knowing the kinds of cereals and starches, and list down dishes that contains cereals and starches. As we begin, let's try to check your prior knowledge. Listen carefully and try to find out the correct answers.
Number 1. What are the parts of plants that store most starch? Is it A. Roots, leaves, and seeds? B. Seeds, roots, and leaves? Letter C. Seeds, roots, and tubers? Or letter D. Tubers, seeds, and leaves? The right answer is letter C, seeds, roots, and tubers. Number 2. A classification of starch that refers to the starches as originally derived from its plant source. Is it A. Native starch? B. Modified starch? C. Purified starch? Or letter D. Rice starch? If your answer is letter A, native starch, then you are correct. Number 3. What classification of starch that have been altered physically or chemically? Is it A. Modified starch? B. Native or natural starch? Letter C. Processed starch? Or letter D. Purified starch? The correct answer is letter A, modified starch. Number 4. What is the plant source for tapioca? Is it A. Cassava? B. Corn? C. Potato? Or letter D. Rice? You got it right if your answer is letter A, cassava. Number 5. Corn, wheat, rice, grain, sorghum, and oats are classified as what? Is it A. Cereal grains? B. Legumes? C. Roots? Or D. Tubers? The right answer is letter A, cereal grains. Job well done!
To jumpstart our discussion, let us first define terms which will appear and may bring confusion. Words to define are tubers, amylose, cohesion, and viscosity.
Now let us define the word tuber. It is the swollen underground stem of particular types of plants. Amylose means a component of starch characterized by its straight chains of glucose units. Next is the word cohesion. It refers to the sticking together of particles of the same substance. And lastly, the word viscosity. It is the state of being thick, sticky, and semi-fluid in consistency due to internal friction.
I think you are all set. So let's begin. Let us define first the word cereals. It is any grain or starchy pod that is used as food. The most cultivated cereals in the world are rice, wheat, and corn. Seeds, roots, and tubers are the parts of the plants where starches are mostly stored. The most common sources of food starch are cereal grains, legumes, and roots or tubers.
Now here are the examples of cereal grains. We have corn, rice, wheat, sorghum, and oats. And these are the examples of legumes. We have black-eyed peas, chickpeas, beans, and lentils. And the examples of roots and tubers are potato, sweet potato, arrowroot, and cassava.
Food starches depends on its sources, and these are native or natural starches, modified starches, purified starches, and waxy starches.
First, we have native or natural starches, originally derived from its plant source, and it is made up of two molecules, amylose that contributes gelling or gelatinization characteristics to cook and cooled starch mixtures, and amylopectin that contributes cohesion, viscosity, or thickening properties when a starch mixture is cooked in the presence of water. Next, we have modified starches, are starches that have been altered physically or chemically to modify one or more of its key chemicals and or physical property. The third one is called purified starches, may be separated from grains and tubers by a process called wet milling. This procedure employs various techniques of grinding, screening, and centrifuging to separate the starch from fiber, oil, and protein. And lastly, we have waxy starches, derived from some natural strains of barley, corn, rice, and sorghum. There is an absence of amylose on it that makes it less thick and do not produce gel-forming properties.
Cereals comes from any grains are very valuable and can contribute a great deal to our health. Cereal processed foods that can be included in our daily food servings are whole grain cereals, enriched cereal, and restored cereal.
Whole grain cereal contains natural proportions of bran, germ, and endosperm. Next, we have restored cereal, are excellent sources of thiamine, niacin, riboflavin, and iron. And we have enriched cereal, is made from either the entire grain or portions of one or more grains to which there have been added sufficient amounts of thiamine, niacin, and iron to attain the accepted whole grain levels of these three nutrients found in the original grain from which the cereal is prepared. Noodles and pasta which is basically starchy food, has its physiological function that depends on its starch and other constituents. It may contain other fiber and some proteins and fat as well. Dried noodles and pasta that are usually used in preparing starch in cereal dishes are macaroni, Mickey, spaghetti, chicken mami, pancit canton, linguine, bihon, lasagna, sotanghon, and miswa.
To check if you really understand our lesson, let's try to answer this activity. Give the examples of foods according to its source of starch.
Based on our lesson, what do you think are the examples of cereal grains? You are amazing if your answers are rice, corn, wheat, sorghum, and oats. How about the examples of legumes? Can you enumerate them? Very nice! If your answers are black-eyed peas, beans, chickpeas, and lentils. And how about the examples of roots and tubers? Excellent! If your answers are sweet potato, arrowroot, and cassava.
Job well done!
To sum it up, why do you think is it important to know the kinds and sources of starches? Knowing the kinds and sources of cereals and starches can enable one to be aware and knowledgeable of its role and benefits in our daily life. Let's try to deepen your knowledge by doing this activity. It is entitled Shoot in Can.
Directions. Group the following food according to its source of starch. Classify them according to cereal grains, legumes, or roots or tubers inside each open tin can.
For your performance output, list down dishes that contains cereals and starches. Create a menu board consisting of dishes that contain cereals and starches for breakfast, lunch, and snacks. Here are the criteria for scoring rubrics for your output. On a clean sheet of paper, answer the following.
Number 1. What are the parts of plants that store most starch? Is it A. Roots, leaves, and seeds? B. Seeds, roots, and leaves? Letter C. Seeds, roots, and tubers? Or letter D. Tubers, seeds, and leaves? Number 2. A classification of starch that refers to the starches as originally derived from its plant source. Is it A. Native starch? B. Modified starch? C. Purified starch? Or letter D. Rice starch? Number 3. What classification of starch that have been altered physically or chemically? Is it A. Modified starch? B. Native or natural starch? Letter C. Processed starch? Or letter D. Purified starch? Number 4. What is the plant source for tapioca? Is it A. Cassava? B. Corn? C. potato, or letter D, rice? Number 5. Corn, wheat, rice, grain, sorghum, and oats are classified as what? Is it A. Cereal grains, B. Legumes, C. Fruits, or D. Tubers?
Let us see how far you have learned from this lesson. To show your understanding, I want you to answer the following questions.
Number 1. What have you learned about cereals and starches? And number 2. What knowledge can you share with your family and friends about the lessons discussed?
That's all for today. I hope you learned something. See you on our next video lesson.